Hello and welcome to the SHM review of The 13th Warrior. Now, The 13th Warrior is a 1999 movie written by Michael Crichton, the writer of Jurassic Park, and directed by John Mctiernan, who also directed, among other things, Die Hard. This film, though, unlike Jurassic Park and Die Hard, was not a success, either financially or, for the most part, critically. It was released in 1999 with a budget in excess of $85 million. It only made over $60 million at the box office, though, so it was not a financial success, and it only has a score of 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Is it then a film that's not worth checking out? Well, what's the story? The 13th Warrior accompanies Antonio Banderas' character, who is a poet sent away from his land as an ambassador to the people of the North, or Vikings of that time. And initially they don't get on. They see each other's differences in culture as a barrier, understandably so, but through various events they begin to get on, at least one or two of them. And these warriors volunteer, or 12 of them at least, to go and help a village in need, a village whose members are being terrorized by a force that they cannot stand up to. And the 13th warrior, as implied by the title, is Antonio Banderas. He, though, does not volunteer. He's sent unwillingly to help these 12 Northmen on their mission. But over the course of the movie, they put aside their differences, and their chemistry begins to improve, to the point where, by the end of the film, they have fantastic chemistry, they work as a team, and they get on very, very well. And it's that chemistry between the characters that is by far, I would say, the best aspect of The 13th Warrior. Now, many YouTube movie reviewers will give a movie a total score out of 5 or out of 10, or an overall grade, be it an A, a B, a C, etc. And although that's not necessarily a bad method, the inherent problem with that is it's a very blanket grade. It doesn't really tell you anything in depth about the film, because at the end of the day you could have two films that are rated exactly the same by the reviewer that may be completely different. And just because they're both considered good by that reviewer, that doesn't necessarily mean it will appeal to the same kind of person. So, what I'm going to do on this channel is break the films down into a little bit more detail. We're going to have 5 primary categories of breaking these films down to show what they are actually the best at, and perhaps not so good at. And these 5 categories are going to be the story and plot, the characters and their motivations, the overall look of the film and the visual effects, the audio, sound, and general music or score of the film, and also the rewatchability / entertainment factor. And each of these 5 categories is going to be rated out of 10. We will then tabulate those 5 categories to give the film an overall score to the decimal point out of 5, to give us a much more in-depth look as to what the film's best points actually are, and what kind of person will be the most interested in watching the film. So, first of all, let's consider the story and plot of the film. We've already discussed it a little. It covers Antonio Banderas going on a mission that he didn't want to be a part of, but growing to become friends with these other 12 warriors. Now, the story isn't overly complex, but it doesn't need to be. It's simple, and it works. It's a story of 13 would-be heroes, not all of whom are necessarily as experienced as they'd like to be in their specific roles, going to help the helpless people of a nearby town. It's a simple plot. It's a plot which you've seen in quite a few films, but it works. It works very well. It makes the characters very easy to root for, and it makes the film have a very clear goal. That works very much to its advantage. It's simple, but it needs to be simple. It's not an overly complicated film. It doesn't require re-watching to understand the story. It gets to the point. And for that, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for story and plot. That may not sound all that good, but 6 out of 10 is good enough. And that's exactly what the story is. Good enough for what it needs to be. Not stupid, but not overly complicated either. As far as the characters and their motivations, this film is excellent. As I said earlier, that is by far, in my opinion, the best aspect of this film. The characters have excellent chemistry, and although most of the actors aren't necessarily that well known, they're very enjoyable to watch, and their acting is very good. So for characters and their motivations in the film, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. As far as the look, the visuals and the visual effects of the film, it's relatively simple. It's a medieval time period kind of film, so there's not really that much in the way of rich visuals. There's no flying robots and aliens to worry about. It's simple. Most of it is more environmental visuals rather than special effects, and it does what it needs to do. When the visual effects are required, however, they tend to be almost completely practical, and they are very good. There is some gore in the film, and it's very well done. It's realistic, and it's effective. So for the overall visuals, look, and effects of the film, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, because the effects that are used are very good, but there aren't necessarily as many of them as you might like. As far as the audio, sound, and music overall of the film, I'm going to give it a 5. Now, that probably doesn't sound that great, but the reason why I'm giving it a 5 is because 5 on this channel is going to represent what is needed. Anything more than a grade of 5 is going to be good to best. Anything lower than 5 is going to be falling short of the mark. So you consider a 5 out of 10 to be our baseline. And that is why I'm giving the overall sound, the audio, the soundtrack, etc. of this film a 5 out of 10. Because it's not amazing, it doesn't shout out and grab you, it's what it needs to be. It doesn't detract from the moment, it supports the film as it should, when it should. So, a 5 out of 10. As far as finally the rewatchability and entertainment factor, it's very good. It's a film which is severely underappreciated. As I mentioned earlier, it was a box office failure. But as films like The Iron Giant, among others, have proven, just because a film is a failure does not mean it is not a good film. This film is very entertaining, the story is easy to follow, easy to enjoy, and the characters are very, very easy to support, very likeable, and the story is good enough. More than good enough. It's simple, but in the best way. So for the rewatchability and entertainment factor, I'm going to give The 13th Warrior an 8 out of 10. That gives us an overall tabulated score of 3.4 out of 5. Now that may not sound that great, but to put that into perspective, very, very few, if any, films that will ever be on this channel will even get close to scoring a 5. Because in order to get even close to that perfect 5, a film really would need to be absolutely incredible in every single way. And there are very few films which are genuinely perfect 10s in every way. So you will almost never see anything close to a perfect 5 on this channel. So taking that into consideration, a 3.4 out of 5 is actually very good overall for a film. And of course, these scores are in my personal opinion. Finally, my overall verdict for The 13th Warrior is that, as I've mentioned, it is a severely and unjustifiably underappreciated film that, especially if you're a fan of adventure films, films that involve teamwork, and films set in olden times, you will definitely enjoy The 13th Warrior. If you haven't checked out this film, I would strongly recommend that you do so at least once, and I think you'll probably enjoy it. But that's it overall for this review. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.